Hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk about some health related issues that I faced when I was living in US and also currently I'm living in India. But I have worked in US as a pharmacist there, and this video is not like a recommendation as a pharmacist, but as someone who has some insights about what happens with the food and drugs that we consume in our lives and how they can potentially impact our overall health. I'm also going to add a video that's a funny video made by a doctor in US, and I assume he's a doctor. I haven't researched him, but I find most of his videos quite knowledgeable about the system of healthcare in US that I have also myself faced as a patient there and also as a pharmacist there. And in fact, some similar scenarios I faced in recent times, more so in India than I did in US. And I went through this circle of different doctors recent times, which made me finally realize that some of the healthcare things that I can do for myself is in my own hands. And because the doctors couldn't either quite figure out what was wrong, or if they had figured out what was wrong with me, I had almost reached a precancerous stage according to some of the results that I got from some of my reports. And just by simply eliminating some toxins in my life, I managed to recover from some of those symptoms. And of course, some of the help that was provided to me was from different qualified doctors, but some of the things that I did myself was a preventative care practice that I did as a preventative measure to stop escalating into a full disease state. So in order to help other people who might be going through some similar kinds of symptoms that I have faced in my 40 years of my life, I thought of making this video. Maybe it will prove to be helpful to you, I don't know. There was a girl in the comments of this doctor's video whose post actually made me decide to do this, because she also is going through some kind of pain that none of her doctors are able to figure out. And the reason why most doctors can't figure out some of these mysterious illnesses or illnesses where the patient has some confusing range of symptoms is because we all lead very complex lives, and there are a lot of different kinds of toxins that we get exposed to daily in our lives, but most people are unaware about this. I'm also going to post a couple of links that I have written on this topic to help make people understand better how our daily choices can impact our health. Knowingly or unknowingly, we also contribute to our own worsening health symptoms sometimes. So coming back to that girl who mentioned she has some pain problems, I recently, a few years back, when I moved back from US, I had lived in US for 13 years, which was a major chunk of my adult life. And I mostly was in such a clean environment there in US that I lived in Utah, which is a less densely populated city. So naturally my health was mostly good over there. There are a few health problems I faced even in Utah, but most of it was due to the kind of diet and nutrition choices I was making rather than the environmental factors there. Though some environmental factors from Utah also affected my health. Same way in India, initially when I came back, I chalked up some of my health issues to the fact that things are different in India. The air is different, water is different, food is different, the chemicals that we use in our cosmetic products are different. So when I initially got some scalp problems and all that, I just chalked it out to a different setting of a different country. But now, after much more reflection, and because I do a lot of meditations and self-reflections, now I'm realizing slowly that many of the health factors that we experience when we move to a new country is also dependent sometimes on the not just the environmental factors that being different, but actually certain chemicals in those environments are so different that they impact our health. So with me, what happened when I got really sick recently, a few years back, I had gone to the doctor, and the doctor prescribed the normal stuff for, they thought I had a stomach flu or something. So they gave me some ORS like drink, and they gave me some that something that will boost my immunity. So it had also zinc and all, because I had a little bit of stomach flu symptom, a little bit of regular nasal flu symptoms. So she gave me some drink like that. She gave me something for fever, the standard general physician medicines that they prescribe. That's what she prescribed to me. So then what happened was, the drink made me feel good because it had some vitamins, minerals that my body needed. But the pain and fever medicine that she gave me, which was equivalent to Tylenol like medicine and from a generic local brand, that one, after like couple of days of taking that 2 or 3 pills, I started getting intense bone aches and pains. And prior to this illness, a few years before that, what had happened to me was that I used to love eating eggs. They were my go-to protein for many years, decades of my life. And I was consuming eggs like crazy when I initially came back from India, like almost every day and I had joined a gym that was focusing on protein based diets and everything. So I used to have eggs like I would make like scrambled egg or omelette made of 2 eggs every 2-3 days. So basically weekly, at least 3 or 4 days in a week, I would be having eating eggs for breakfast. And one day when I was making the scrambled eggs, and I made it, and sometimes I would add cheese to it, I ate it and I would add tomato ketchup to it. And after eating that scrambled egg that I made with cheese and tomato ketchup, I found that there was some preservative like smell in it, and I couldn't quite know which of these products had the preservative. My most best guess was that tomato ketchup has the preservative, because we've been taught about that since childhood days. So I thought, okay, I had this meal and I found a preservative smell, and I didn't like it. It was a very strong smell. So I decided, like, in the next meal that I would have, I will not have the ketchup. And what had happened was, I was in the background also getting some bone ache and pain that was happening to me, and I couldn't figure out why am I getting this aches and pains in my leg area. So after I thought that maybe it's a ketchup that has the preservative, the next time I prepared the same dish, I didn't use ketchup for my meals, and I only ate the egg with cheese. Again the same thing happened. I again smelled preservative in it. Now this time I was like, the next culprit possibly could be the cheese slice, because again it's a processed food, that's why the chances of preservatives in it is high. So the next time I prepared the dish, I eliminated the cheese slice. Again I ate the scrambled eggs, and this time again I found preservative smell. So that's when I decided it must be coming from my eggs. And to test whether it's coming from my eggs, whatever else, the remaining eggs that were there in the refrigerator, I went and smelled them, and I could smell a preservative like smell from the eggs. By now I had consumed, at least in a week, a couple of days I had consumed these eggs, and my bone ache and pain had persisted. So that's what made me realize that it is possible that these preservatives in these eggs that are strongly smelling of preservatives, because usually the preservatives that we have in our cheese slices or tomato ketchup, it's so much milder that you don't get and you don't detect the smell of the preservative in these processed foods. But all processed foods have some kind of preservative added to them. So because I'm a pharmacy student, I know all this. Part of it I have learned as a student, part of it you sometimes read in newspapers too. So that's why I have this information. So the eggs, since they were smelling of this preservative, I stopped eating them after that, because they were very strongly smelling of preservatives. And I tried to convince my family also to quit eating these, but they didn't get convinced about stopping. They did try to get eggs from a different vendor, but even the different vendors' eggs were smelling of the preservatives. And what happened to me? As soon as I quit eating these eggs, I took like a week of no egg diet, even though I love eating eggs, and a couple of times a week I was eating them earlier. After this intense bone pain experience, I just quit eating these eggs. And as soon as I quit eating the eggs, the aches and pains that were happening to me disappeared. And after this date, 5-6 years have passed, and in the last 5-6 years, only a handful of times I've eaten any eggs, and I've never faced that kind of pain that I faced when I ate these preservative laced eggs. Now, US is a different country, but some of the preservatives that are used in the world globally are similar because they're based off of similar kinds of research data. So maybe the percentage used in preserving an egg might be different, but anytime any of us consumes these eggs that are not, say, directly bought from the farms, it is highly likely that they have been laced with some kind of chemicals and preservatives and hormones. And that's why I would recommend to anyone who's having these intense bone aches and pains to examine in their diet, is there anything that if they eat frequently, if they can do a food chart for themselves or something, maybe they can figure out if there is something in their diet that is causing them to have these aches and pains. And then coming back to my story of the Tylenol like medication. What is this Tylenol like medication? It usually has this active ingredient called paracetamol in it. Paracetamol is a very popular drug both in US and in India and globally. It is used for aches and pains and fever. So whenever you are sick with a flu, whenever you have some infection that has fever as a symptom, most doctors or most patients themselves will just go and buy it over the counter, a Tylenol or paracetamol like medication. So I have taken paracetamol drug in various different brands, versions throughout my life. So it's been almost throughout these 40 years of my life, in fact since almost 5-6 years of age, I remember like whenever we used to have any kind of flu like symptom and fever happening in our family, this drug paracetamol was prescribed very frequently by the doctors in our government organization in India where my dad worked, and the government hospitals that I used to visit. Same way in US too, if we had periods or if I had some severe fever, sometimes I would take Tylenol. So paracetamol is a drug that I have taken many times. But this particular brand medicine, I don't remember which brand it was, but that particular brand's paracetamol, even though I took it, it was giving me the same level of ache and pain that was similar to what I've experienced when I consumed those preservative laced eggs. And then what happened, I was not smelling any preservative in these tablets, but again because the ache and pain in my bones and muscles were very similar level, I realized that it is possible that it is the Tylenol not the Tylenol, it's a generic version of Tylenol. That paracetamol brand had some preservatives in it that was causing this ache and pain. So I stopped taking that particular brand of paracetamol, and as soon as I stopped taking that brand, my aches and pains went away, and I hardly had any fever and pain, so that pain was manageable even without a medication. So sometimes, what I want to tell patients or anyone who is experiencing these severe bone aches and pains, it is possible that when we are taking any kind of processed food, it can be eggs, it can be non-veg, it can be canned vegetables, it can be frozen vegetables, it can be frozen lentils, it can be frozen dal. If not frozen, even in India, I have seen in Indian lentils recent times, the processing manufacturers are doing something with the moong dal, chana dal, black lentil, green dal, yellow dal, whatever different kinds of lentils that are eaten by Indian society, or even more majority of people of the world. These dried lentils that we buy from the stores, grocery stores, some of them have been preserved in such a way using certain kind of chemicals that are so toxic. Like when I consume those dals, even after washing them, my cook told us that she usually washes them a couple of times before cooking those dal. But even after washing them, the chemicals in them are so high. Sometimes even with those dals, I have experienced a little bit of bone ache and pain in my hands. So different kinds of chemicals can cause different reaction in our body, but the reason why they're potentially causing these bone aches and pains for me, or even the muscle aches and pains for me, is because I am not a person who eats a lot of proteins. Because I was born in a non-vegetarian family, so people in my family eat a lot of non-vegetarian food like fish and chicken and eggs. And once I stopped eating eggs was the only non-veg I was continuing on for a long time. But chicken and other kinds of non-veg I had kind of slowly started quitting eating for a long time. So my protein source is from milk products or from dals, lentils. So but because of this, I feel because of the way I have eaten most of my life, I do not have a high bone density. And because I do not have a high bone density, and because of that, I think my bones are a little bit more sensitive than other people. And there were other things also going on in the background with me. Some other health problems have cropped up in recent times. So but the moment, if we pause and look into our diet, and if any kind of diet in our daily food intake is responsible for these aches and pains, the solution that I think is needed for everyone is first to try to switch to a different kind of food. Like with eggs, I have quit eating eggs because I was also having some problem with the quality of eggs in India. So, and I was converting slowly into vegetarian and vegan type of diet. It's a little harder to do it in India, the vegan diet. That's why I've stuck to the vegetarian diet for the most part. But other than that, it's important that our food, what I've realized, be it in US, be it in India, most of the foods that are brought to our homes have some kind of chemical exposure to them, either via the farming sources or via where these foods are stored and preserved by the grocery retail chains. So if you have the alternative to buy farm fresh, preservative free, chemical free food, or if you can raise your own food in your homes, try to switch to diets like that can help. And definitely do a food diary anytime you have aches and pains in your body, and especially if any doctor is not able to figure out what is the reason behind your said pain, and if medicines are not helping you, or even if they help you, they are only partially helping you. A best solution I have found is to write a food and medicine chart, figure out by process of elimination what can impact our health. If anyone has been having such kind of problems and is having trouble figuring out what in their food source might be responsible for their health issue, and if they haven't had any good insights from any doctors they saw, maybe you can drop me a line in the comments and maybe I can help you figure it out. I don't know everything about everything that we consume, but being a pharmacy student, I am somewhat exposed to some of the harmful things in our food and medicine that can impact our health. And even if I may not know the name of the chemical that is causing the problem, doing some process of elimination can help us maybe figure out if something in your diet is impacting your health. And not just diet, not just medicine, sometimes the preservatives and chemicals that can impact our health can also be in the chemicals we use daily in our lives, like cleansing agents, sanitizers. Even sanitizers I have found to be a little bit harmful for me. The crystal clear alcohol based sanitizers, I really love them. They are really good for cleansing purposes. But the sanitizers which have artificial scents or artificial colors in them, I found them to be allergic, or I found them to give me headaches, or cause breathing problems. So there are many, and not just sanitizers is the most used chemical currently by everyone because of COVID. But other than sanitizers, we use so many other chemicals in our daily lives, like soaps and detergents and shampoos and all of which eventually end up also polluting our waters. So it can end up coming back to us via the water sources that we consume, via the drinks, via the water we use for washing, water we use for preparing our food. So that's another place where the chemical contaminations can eventually come back in our lives. So be mindful of what you're consuming. Even when there are some people I have seen online who make videos about the healthy diet that they can have with certain fruits and vegetables that are commonly good for certain deficiencies, and I love those videos. But again, the caveat there also is that if you say have some deficiency like iron deficiency, and you need to have green leafy vegetables or fruits and vegetables which have or produce which have iron in it, now that is the best solution for any minimal iron deficiency. But what if the food that you're getting from the sources that you're getting are contaminated with other chemicals? Then your iron deficiency problem can get worsened if you ate those foods. And what if even you're taking a nutritional supplement, but the provider who makes that nutritional supplement, if they are that nutritional supplement iron is also coming from some natural source. Now that natural source, if that has got contaminated via different sources and people are unaware about that contamination, what happens is that unaware of whatever is going on behind the scenes of whatever we are consuming, we are not aware, the people who are manufacturing them, processing them, packaging them for us, or raising these fruits and vegetables and produce for us, many people are unaware about the level of pollution that is going on in the world. And not just because of the level of pollution that has been created by different humans, but also the level of pollution that is rampant in the normal standard practices of raising a plant, raising a produce. Those normal standard practices have also gotten contaminated over time, and the health consequences of that people haven't realized yet. Or even if you've realized that certain foods can cause cancer, certain foods can cause certain diseases, the complete picture hasn't emerged yet for many people. So anytime your doctors aren't able to figure out something, or anytime you have figured out if certain foods were causing health issues, please put that in my comments too, because I would love to know and hopefully provide a resource to other people in knowing what kind of foods and brands, if they purchased in a particular country at a particular time, has ended up causing them health issues. Hope this video was helpful, and please comment if you want to know more about any of the topics I approached in this video. Thank you.